Hello, and welcome to In the Stars with Eli Gomez. I am your host, Eli Gomez. As you can hear, we got new music here. I'm officially announcing now that I am going to be continuing the podcast past 6 episodes, so I plan on continuing to do it weekly, and it's something that I actually really enjoy doing. So if I wanted to continue doing that, I wanted to choose new music that is more authentic to me and fits more my vibe of what I want to put out into the world. Now, I have Damien Bartlett on the show this week as my guest, and we are going to be discussing Canadian politics this episode and kind of the scene that's happening up there. This is a really fun episode, guys. I know you all will not be disappointed, and maybe you'll learn something, because I know I did by having this conversation. And we're going to be sharing kind of like what we think's coming down the pike up there and all the things. So this is the first episode that we got on my podcast that deals with forecasting and predictions. So we're going to try that out. Also, there's going to be a patron-only podcast that's going to be kind of a part 2 for this one. And it's going to be about American politics and the political scene here, and we're going to throw around our predictions and forecasts for that as well. We have a lot of fun with that one, so make sure you go sign up for my Patreon, and you can get access to Meredith's episode as well as this part 2 episode, because you will not be disappointed. We really do not hold back. But yeah, so without further ado, here is Damien Bartlett. All right, I am here now with Damien Bartlett. I've known you for, oh my God, probably since I've been a student of Lori's. Yeah, and so you're a actor, writer,
Yep.
just all the things. So,
Yep.
yeah, you do all the things all the time. Yeah.
I do all the things.
With that being said, how did astrology find you?
Oh, that is a once in a lifetime transit that occurred in 2020. Um, I was at the time working on a production of a film that I had written with my film group. And I was also performing in a burlesque company in my city, a really great burlesque company. And because of the transit, everything kind of metaphorically burned to the ground and set me on this pathway. And I was like, and even as it was happening, I was like, I wonder where this is going to take me. You know, my life is crumbling. But at the same time, I'm like, I was keenly aware that I was heading to something else. And then I got on TikTok. Actually, hilariously, the reason I got on TikTok was to block people on my former film team because there was some really bad abuse that was happening, and I needed to just cut ties with the people that were there. And I just stayed on TikTok, and then I started going into all sorts of esoterica, which included astrology. And I saw a bunch of the astrology girlies, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's all right. And then I found Lori, and I was like, okay, this chick knows what she's talking about. She's like, hello, I'm an astrologer of 30 years. I'm like, her.
Yep, she's the one. Yeah.
I want to learn from her. And yeah, she was the one, straight up. And I was like, yep, that's the one. And so eventually Lori started teaching classes, and that's also how we met. And yeah, and it's been a crazy wild ride that 2019 Damien would be like, you're doing what? I'm like, yup. But here we are.
Yeah, so we found astrology at around this some very similar time. And so
Really?
yeah, we did. Yeah. And so it was around 2020 because that was when that's what I always tell people is I found it through the newspaper.
Amazing.
Was a great place to start, but it was only good for like maybe a month, and then they started recycling horoscopes, and they're like, ugh, no.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Yeah, they were very creative. Yeah.
Mm.
And so then I was like, but I feel like there's something more to this. And so I slowly kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit of that interest throughout the next 2 years until about 2022 when I really was just like, okay, I need to like actually do like research on this. And then that's how I found Lori, also through TikTok and all the things. So we found it very in similar ways. So yeah, I always found, oh,
That's crazy. That's such a similar journey.
I know, it's like synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's wild.
So you live in Canada.
I do. Yes.
I brought you on so that way we could talk about kind of the Canadian political scene right now and kind
Hmm.
of what's going on up in your neck of the woods. So, kind of give us a little bit of a rundown of kind of how the state of the system currently and why this is a topic that we felt like needed to be addressed.
Yeah, sure. There is a great deal of conversation happening in Canada about what is currently going on in the States. And to be clear, that's happening around the world. But here in Canada, we're kind of Poland, if you will, at this point. So we need to
An
be,
interesting analogy.
yeah, we need to be paying extra attention. Um, so there's a couple of things that are happening. There's three like political leaders that are right now involved, and then there's going to be. I'll expand on that some more. Right now, there is the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who had announced that he is stepping down as Prime Minister. And there's the other leader of the New Democratic Party called Jagmeet Singh, and he is the one who actually called the vote of no confidence against Justin Trudeau. And as a result, that Justin Trudeau went through the process, announced his resignation, and is doing a thing called proroguing Parliament, which is going to be stopping Parliament from happening until March. The other leader that's involved is a guy named Pierre Poilievre, and he is the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party, and he was on track to being potentially the next prime minister. However, he had made some comments which had alluded to a certain Elon Musk's salute, and had alluded that he'd be okay with it. And there is a citizen journalist named Frank Dominic who's on TikTok, and he's out from the province of Ontario. And he's also a history teacher, and so he's very clear about like the historical similarities of a certain 1930s time and an angry mustache man and the times that we're experiencing right here. And so he posed a question to his, specifically the conservative members in his audience, that, hey, conservatives, I really need you to ask you a genuine question. Are you okay with your leader of the Progressive Conservative Party being in support of a man who did a Nazi salute? And the answer came back by the thousands was overwhelmingly no. They're not okay with that. That's like a hard line for them. So the tides have shifted a bit, and it is looking like the Liberals, which is your version of the Democrats in the States, is going to be starting to flow forward a little bit more. Nothing isn't written in stone. We have an election this year on October 20th for electing the next Prime Minister of Canada. And how the system works is a little bit different. The party elects a leader, and then that leader is the one who is put forward. And if their party wins, then the leader of that party becomes the next prime minister. That's how the Westminster system works. A little bit different. There's 7 people who have put their hat in the ring for leadership of the Liberal Party. But there's one in particular that I'm going to be talking about who has not necessarily put his hat in the ring, but he has intimated that he is interested in putting his hat in the ring to become the next leader of the Liberal Party, and that's a man named Mark Carney. Now, Mark Carney in 2008 was the governor of the Bank of Canada. So basically, he was responsible for the financial health and well-being of the country. And that was during, of course, the time of the Wall Street crash. And through his actions, and again, I'm not a political person, so I don't know all the details. I'm just like a citizen of the land and an astrologer who is observing patterns, was able to avert like the worst of it. It was still not good, but it was still averted. And he's actually, after that, he spent some time as the governor of the Bank of England, where he, I believe, pissed off the Conservatives there. Good for him. Now he's back, and he is hinting that he might be the leader. Now, Pierre Poilievre the leader of the Progressive Conservatives, wrote him a very stern letter at the rumor that he might be becoming the leader by saying, if you become the next leader of the Liberal Party, it is your duty to basically fire the entire existing cabinet right now. And that's not the words of a man who is confident. And we'll get into the actual astrology, why Pierre Poilievre is genuinely concerned about Mark Carney, because, yeah, he scares him. Mark Carney scares him. So I love that for him. I'll try my best to not be biased when I'm going through their charts and treat it like a client, but I am, at this time in humanity's journey, I would like to make sure that the right horse gets in the right game, because kind of counts on it. So Mark, he is a Pisces sun and a Virgo moon. So he's a really interesting character.
He was born just before the full moon,
So the waxing gibbous.
very, very wide orb.
Yeah.
Very wide orb, but
Yeah. So for him, laws and rules and how they fit together just flows for him. He has really incredible attention to detail and can peek under the hood of policy to know if it works or not. He is meticulous with his details. As far as like security and faith, they go hand in hand for him. He's looking for the best in a situation in rules, politics, and laws that offers the best ideal security in a situation. But this is a man who likes certainty.
yeah, he also knows how to get what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting to that. He likes certainty.
Oh, for sure.
He's incredibly well spoken in the public realm. He knows how to proceed next with an aura of confidence, whether in interviews or in policy planning. Like he can hold his own in any room. It doesn't matter. Carney's actions, he's strategic and analytical. He knows how to proceed based on historic data and current projections. He has Bayesian's probability running in the background at all times, which basically means he takes any variable that's coming in. He doesn't give any energy to any unknowns until they show up, and then he lays tracks as things come in. So he's ready to plan for things as they show up. Carney communicates his needs through making sure that everything is planned around him. He can seem remote emotionally at times, and that is because he's always looking ahead.
Yeah, he also is a very good visionary. He always has that movie playing up in his head as to like how he wants to have things done. That also is kind of running in the back of his head, and he's also kind of like using that strategic planning as to how do I make that dream a reality?
Yes, exactly. For him, he has a focus on organization and fellowship that has got long-term ministry of money is the goal. Like there's his eyes on the prize, if you know what I mean. Like he knows what he's looking for. Very creative and insightful. He's got very bold approaches to how resources are handled. For him, everything's a bit of a puzzle to be solved, a mystery to be uncovered. There is a playful game of quiet delight when he goes about working with things, as far as he goes.
He's very stealthy.
Oh yeah, totally. Which is part of the reason why Poilievre is flipping out as hard as he is. Carney is an innovator and a disruptor. This guy, he can see the potential in all things down to the minute details, and is not afraid to convey his ideas into desired action. Now, in his early days, his ideas would have ruffled many feathers. But now he is well into his authority, because once he proved his knowledge, people started listening to him. He moves quietly and firmly. His work, at least up to this point, has never been in the limelight. He's never had positions while they are incredibly important positions, like the governor of the Bank of Canada, it's not a limelight position. But he has always been somebody who has shaped the workings behind the scenes. And he is able to translate abstract concepts into concrete action. This guy is really good at making things happen. like turning things into reality. So
Master manifester.
he is a master manifester, and but he's not like he's not. It's not a loud energy, but it's like palpable.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not like he's gonna be going around being all flashy. In fact, it's kind of more so the opposite. Like he's very good at cloaking himself in a crowd.
oh
You
my
know, it's
god,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
like he,
And like I've never like actually heard of this person until a couple days ago when we were talking about this, and I was like, you just sent me a chart. You're like, hey, take a look at this, and I want you to tell me what you see. And I'm like, my goodness, like master cloaker, master, very deceptive skills if he really wanted to use them. So
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And that is why the next person is gravely concerned if he throws his hat. I haven't double checked to see if he has officially made his hat in the ring. It's looking like it, but he has to actually put his hat in the ring. But I think he will, and it's game over for Polyev if that's the case.
Well, probably once Neptune pops into Aries, we'll know for sure because he currently has Neptune conjunct his sun.
Yeah,
So uh, I think we'll really know for sure then.
yeah, he'll make a decision, and that will be pretty soon. So. Anyway, moving on to our boy Pierre Polyev, the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party. What a delight.
Yeah, the
Um,
ones that we have lots of fun words for.
yeah. So he is a Gemini sun and also a Virgo moon. So there's similarities between all of the three leaders' main energies at play. It's just how they use them. So for Pierre Polyev, this is a person with a lot of ideas to express and espouse on the public stage. In his early years, Polyev it might have been difficult for him due to his curiosity and his endless questions. Why? I imagine he was a motor mouth as a kid, and he never stopped being a motor mouth. He just learned to turn it into money. So
Yeah, he's the one who's probably gave his parents a heart attack talking to strangers. Yeah.
likely, yeah, and asking questions. Why?
Why? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
why? Like, what's your name? Anyway, in
Why is
later,
that your name? That's a weird name.
yep,
Boy, we don't just go around saying stuff like that. It's just that's what I see when I look at this chart. Yeah.
yeah. So in later years, and especially in his vocation, he developed a philosophy of thought that is kind of partially cloaked. He doesn't give away how everything he thinks. He'll give away part of it,
Yeah,
but
he's conservative, well, not only politically, but also just in general. Like he's a more conservative, reserved
yeah,
person.
yeah. And he has a really strong will, like an incredibly strong will.
Very.
Now, he is definitely a quick minded orator. He can usually come up with a response, Johnny on the spot. And because he has given considerable thought ahead of time to it, it might seem like he's just motor mouthing, but he's really thought about what he's going to be saying and how he's going to be saying it. He's got intuitive recall and knowledge. He's accumulated. He can make even strong-willed people doubt their positions unless they are prepared equally ahead of time for it. So that's something he has. Now
He can
this,
also hold a grudge.
oh, oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Master grudge holder.
oh
And you will know if he has a grudge against him because like let's just be for real looking at this chart. He's going to tell on himself regardless. Like it's crazy. Like um I would say he will not shy away from telling you what he thinks
yeah,
about you as a person.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said before, when he wrote that letter to Carney, he's telling on himself there. He does have a poker face, but he can't help himself.
Yeah. It's like a poker face in the moment, but once the poker game is over, it's over.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Like if And I'll get to that. Like if this person's emotional security is focused on enoughness and long-term enoughness, the accumulation of resources, and kind of has an anxious attachment that is not like it's not ever enough, like he'll accumulate and it'll be like, nope, that's not enough, and he'll accumulate and it's like, no, that's not enough. I mean, he's really good at attracting and finding financial opportunities and acting on them, but again, that anxious energy, it'll never quite be enough. He hides this anxiety behind a wall of words, which then of course tells on himself.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he will just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Exactly. Now, this person's focus is on faith of self, to believe they are enough, and often externalizes this enoughness. He might seek out secret organizations to feel special and bring ease to any perceived lack, which was a
And that's
very
secret in
and
quotations.
which was a very interesting find in his chart. And I thought, is that what I think it
Yeah.
is? And then later on, we'll get to it. Could fall under manipulation by anyone pulling on their anxiety of lack, and with the allure of enoughness. So that's a thing. Now,
It also wouldn't be beneath him to take big potential secret financial support. So
no, it's
he'll
he
actually probably welcome that.
yeah, he would be like amazing, because like that is part of the anxiety that he has. So that actually would be like if somebody was like, hey, I'll ease that, anything that brings a comfort to that, however temporary. Yeah. Now, he may have had to be in charge from a very early age. I see that in his chart, learning to express one's own authority. And I'm not going to speculate on what his upbringing was. It's just that he had to be in charge very early on in his life, which may have gotten him in trouble during the early years for his thoughts expressed. Because, again, as we said, learning to find the right community to mold these thoughts to help with him self-actualizing was a bit of a journey for him. Now, he's got a unique way of communicating and interpreting ideas. And the communicating can either be how his voice sounds or how his cadence is. And it could be either and both. Very careful placement of words and meaning, tied to being able to communicate wants and needs that involve security of the financial kind. Words have a way with this person of getting under people's skin, and possibly might make people's skin crawl with how he speaks, if not consciously checked. Spoilers, they're not consciously checked, they're deliberate.
Well, when we're dealing with a lot of people in politics, most of the time it is not consciously checked. I have seen very few politicians' charts where I have seen placements being consciously checked. And even then, it's usually a very specific set of planets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He has a convincing way of getting what he wants. Now, this is Polyev is someone who is devoutly religious. He came from a religious family, and possibly of the charismatic variety of religion, traditions, and possibly dogmatic beliefs about hearth and home, if you know what I mean. He uses these values to signal to a particular audience who shares similar beliefs, belongings to an organization that holds similar beliefs. And this is where that differential comes up with, because he has been actually actively involved in the last year with the evangelical Christians. He's very secretive about what he believes, very private. Now, I'm not saying that he's part of a CULT, but I am suggesting that he might be part of a clandestine unit of loyal theocrats. So,
Yeah. He definitely appreciates the structure that it involves. Because I think part of it too is he wants to be in charge, but he also wants to have that structure, and you can't really have it both ways. And so finding that balance, that's kind of how he does it.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. He has a powerful presence with his words. They command attention. He's able to translate his words into action and project into the future of what he wants for his future. It is unrelenting and for his communication and messaging, which indicates that if he were part of a CULT, he potentially might be leading that
Right.
particular
Yeah.
organization. So that was a wild find to see pop up in his chart. I expected a lot of the stuff, but that one I was like, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you have any last thoughts on our Pierre Polyev before I move on to our next friend?
If it's not a CULT, I would say that definitely involved in underground communities,
Mm,
um, whether that be potential political machines. So
mm,
I do see a lot of that as well, especially since it is very clear looking at his chart that he is not going to turn down a good, juicy financial opportunity, whether it be legal or illegal.
yep.
And so that's kind of where I'm getting that from.
I should bring up at this point that there is an inquiry that's happened in Canada. And Justin Trudeau in 2024 was talking about this particular inquiry where it was determined that members of parliament were knowingly or unknowingly colluding with a foreign government, India and China. And every single leader in this country got their security clearance to look at said report, except Pierre Polyev. He was the only one who steadfastly refused it. And then that is simultaneously the time that he was attempting to issue a vote of no confidence for Justin Trudeau, because at that point, Polyev was leading in the polls and it would have caused a snap election to occur, and he would have likely won to become prime minister. Unfortunately, he kept getting blocked. And I believe, and I'm talking about the next leader coming up, I believe the next leader worked with Justin and like not like anything out in the open, but like a discussion that it had to be him to be the one to call the vote of no confidence so that Polyev was blocked on all levels. And the person who did that is Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the New Democratic Party. So to give you a picture for your American viewers, I want you to think if Bernie Sanders made a party with Bernie Sanders ideals and take it about 10 steps lefter than anything Bernie Sanders has conceived, then that is the New Democratic Party, and that's the leader. And Jagmeet Singh is really cool. I like this guy. I look at his chart
Yeah,
and
I'm looking at his chart. Like, he seems like somebody that I'd want to hang around.
totally, right? Um, when he was young, he got into a lot of fights. They came for him. And that's because he's a Sikh and he's a minority. And like even though he grew up in Toronto, which is a multicultural city. He because of his chart placements, it was unavoidable. The fights came to him, and so he learned to fight. This guy can fight, like physically fight. He is a 5th Dan black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so like he will body you. Do not mess with him. Like so in his early years he probably like had to learn to temper his will and action together into something long term that would develop into incredible patience and discipline when it came to both career, body, and health. There is definitely a spiritual component and a deeply humanitarian viewpoint to Jagmeet, which I'm seeing in the chart. He also likes really delicious food. It's got to be soul pleasing, like this guy. Jagmeet lives and breathes fairness and equity. He's got like an excellent memory and recall when it comes to litigation and details because he's also a lawyer, criminal defense lawyer. And when he speaks, he's always speaking about a person's best nature, and he puts humanity and future first. he gives the kind of energy of how can we make things better for the people? What structures of laws can we put forward to make this better for humanity? He would be an excellent like partner to work with in any sort of negotiation or talking with somebody, working one-on-one.
You'd also be very ethical, so you know that things would get done right.
Yeah, like to the letter of the law, and no less. Um, he honestly wants to know your thoughts and what excites you and what you believe in, because that's important for him to hear that. Because of his placements, he's got kind of a bit of an otherworldly quality to his voice, and an empowered way of speaking, especially when he's advocating for someone or something he believes in. So Jagmeet's physical discipline, as I mentioned before, is also a spiritual one. One informs the other. This is a great combination. He's got the temperament and the grounding and also the dreamy ideals as a result of that. This Jagmeet is a master manifester. He is literally, if you can dream it, it will be real. And that mantra will take him so far. He gets the best results when he expresses his will and actions together as a result of that you dream it, it will be real idea. This guy makes shit shake when he moves. I'm not going to lie, he's got big dick energy. It's just straight up.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and that is the 3 leaders. Now, I do believe that like when Jagmeet called the vote of no confidence, I think because all of the party leaders had seen the security, had gotten their security clearance and seen the report and who was involved, without intimating and saying much, but like actions talk louder than words, of course. I think it was necessary. I think he did it because, not because he's like, I have no faith in the current prime minister anymore. I think they talked about, this feels like Dumbledore and Severus Snape when they had their conversation beforehand. It's like, you have to be the one to do it. It can't be anyone else. So that's the vibe I'm getting, because they've got the eye on the prize about what's coming down the pipe, who's involved, and because it's larger than Canada. This security report is larger than Canada. It's like it involves a number of countries without going into more detail than that. And yeah, so it'll be a very interesting year to see what shakes out. Yeah, and I think that's all my current notes on the gentleman that I wanted to talk about.
All right. So now that we've established the 3 main characters of
Mm-hmm.
Canadian politics right now, let's kind of get into a little bit of what's going to be happening down kind of in the future, uh, because that's kind of giving people a little bit of anxiety or a little disconcertedness. Like let's take a little bit into that.
Everything that's happened in Canada has been a massive wake-up call, and I don't know why some people did not see the writing on the wall. Like, the writing has been on the wall for over 10 years. Like, since like Trump had in 2015 intimated that he was going to be running for president, and I was like, oh. But like, it's like not everybody's paying attention because people are working a lot. People don't have the energy or the bandwidth to sort of look at the bigger picture. And now that the bigger picture is knocking on their doorstep, they're like, oh my God. So they're kind of, there's a lot of anxiety and worry. And so very fervent discussions are happening. And it's really interesting to see like the conservative people, like genuinely a lot of conservative people expressing their deep concern. There was a couple of, now in Canada we have provinces, and the provinces and territories are led by premiers. That would be the equivalent of your governors. Every single one of the premiers in this country basically signed off that they were going to be standing with Canada and making sure that, we do what we need to do to financially protect ourselves, to hopefully it never comes down to anything else, but just financially protect ourselves with the tariffs, except for one. Danielle Smith of Alberta. Mm, 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 mm. She went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring and bend the knee. And let me tell you, Albertans are kind of ornery. I'm trying to think of an equivalent. Kind of Texas
Oh,
ornery. So they're not.
yeah, they can be ornery.
They're not pleased with her having done that, and she's made some very large statements which has not endeared her to her constituents. So I suspect that when the next election comes up, she is going to be summarily punted, and that is my ardent desire as well.
She'll be probably seeing her way out.
Oh yeah, she has, like, for example, there's about $500,000 in disability funding that she just cut. No other reason, but just cut it, and it was just cruel and malicious. It's not like they don't have money. Alberta is oil country, oil and natural gas country. They have a lot of money and resources available. They could have afforded it, but cruelty was the point. So, and like whenever she opens her mouth, she's always blaming Trudeau. So that's going to be interesting. And I wonder if she will have a similar panic mode response like Pierre Poilievre has to Mark Carney, because like Mark Carney is looking to be the next person in question for the leader of the Liberal Party. Now, whether or not he gets in, I don't know. Like, that day is a really murky kind of day. There's stuff going on there that it's not really clear. But when I did the synastry, for example, like Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, that's when you combine the charts together. I can, like, Poilievre has no way to figure out what his next move
No,
is.
he does not have the transits
No.
at all.
No.
There's literally no way.
Yeah.
And if he does somehow get into it, it's going to be kind of a Trump situation. Like, the only reason he got into it was because of secret financial deals.
Yeah.
But I would even make the claim to say that Pierre's would be even more obvious if that was how than Trump's.
Yeah.
Because Trump had some very obscure transits happening, and so, but Pierre's are not near as like it's pretty clear if that's what goes down, that's what goes down. But I would say that for the most part, I would bet I'm about 95% sure he would. There's no way.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering about too. It's an interesting day. That day is. There's like a whole
It is. It's a very.
lot.
I mean, honestly, I would go ahead and make the claim that if your country, because we have actually multiple listeners in multiple countries, if your country's having an election, it's going to be murky, some way, shape, or form. It's pretty safe to say that,
Straight up,
with some rare exceptions.
Yeah, like they're each of the three leaders that I've discussed with their transits. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening? There's something behind the scenes, very behind the scenes, that is moving, and it feels like almost like a sting in a way, like something is getting like it's a sting operation, and it affects all three of the leaders. And I'm just like, what is happening? So
yeah, it's so weird. It's almost that's why when I was looking at Pierre's chart, I was like, that makes me wonder if like there's this like underground group of people, kind of similar to the tech monopolies in America, and I'm sure elsewhere as well. And Canada has like some sort of similar, if not the same people, or what if like they're colluding together? That's something that I thought.
I think they are colluding together.
Yeah,
I think
makes
your
most
problems
sense.
are our problems. There are
Right.
similar problems. Okay, I really
And what's
see that.
so weird is that since, and I was telling you this last night,
Mm-hmm.
is that for Pierre's policy standpoints, they're Democrat standpoints in America. And so the fact that that he's, pulling his shenanigans shows that it is capable for Democrats in America to pull shenanigans as well.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
not just because they're Democrat or because they're blue doesn't make them immune from unethical behavior. And so that is something that I definitely wanted to hone on here too, is because just because they're Democrat does not make them good. So,
So just looking at, for example, Mark Carney's chart right now and the transits of October 20th, 2025, set it for 10 p.m. because that's usually around the time that we have a good idea about who's what and shaking down. There is an approaching Libra new moon. Like, yeah. So that's interesting. That's going to be the beginning of something happening in Canada. I don't know what it means, 100%. But like, I definitely see that. Well, I won't go into like details because we don't have exact birth times for these gentlemen. But just like looking at, like for Mark, there's a lot of pressure. Like I see that day there's a lot of pressure on him. Because of all the things that are going on in his chart. And then we pop over to our friend Pierre. Where are you, buddy? Where are you? Sorry, I gotta find it again. Where is he? There you are, buddy. All right. Pierre at about 10 p.m. that time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's got some pressure happening too. Different, though. He's being revealed. Like, I'm seeing that. Like, I'm seeing something. It's either being cloaked or uncloaked is the thing that I'm getting from looking at this. Yeah, that's not a winning.
but Mark Carney definitely has better transits for that one.
He does.
Because he has Saturn's conjunct his sun that day, and so that could take two different routes, but because there's an approaching new moon in the sign of Libra in his chart, I would say that makes it more, in a way, it makes him a little bit more like gives him a little bit more authority in that. So.
Yeah, it's definitely like he's potentially stepping into an authority,
right.
Which is what that could indicate. And then lastly, I just want to bring up our homeboy, Jagmeet Singh. There you are, my guy. That day, oh, that's interesting. He has like because Jagmeet and Polyev were born in the same year, they have somewhat similar transits. But for Jagmeet, I'm seeing he's making partnerships that day. Like this is a big, like his year is going to be like a big partnership year, is what I'm seeing happening. I don't know if that means does it enough to mean he's going to become potentially the next Prime Minister of Canada? I don't know, but I see him working collaboratively, very intently with people, like really intently, for like long-term benefit, whether that's for the country or him, but it's probably for the country because Jagmeet's pretty much, he walks the walk and talks the talk. So yeah, it's a crazy day though. I'm gonna have to look at this chart again once we're a little bit closer to that date, but because like there's a bunch of X factors that have not yet shown up, and I, as again mentioned before, I am certainly no political expert. I am just going by what the human beings that we are talking about are experiencing in the moment. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But again, it doesn't look like Polyev is going to be the next prime minister, which is, sorry, PP, but that's that's good for all of us. Bad for you, good for us.
Yeah.
And potentially, might be Mark Carney. Nothing, no, for sure. It's like potentially maybe.
Well, out of the people who are main characters right now,
Yes.
he's the one that has the best trans. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm not completely thrilled with his transits either, but
No.
if it were to be out of all of them, he would be the one. It's very similar to the vibes from the 2024 election in America in a way.
Yes.
It's like out of
Yes.
all the people in there, you're like, well, Kamala has the better transit, so I mean, I guess, that's kind of that's what this is giving.
It is giving, yeah, I would agree. It gives like that election, the American election was so murky, and the Canadian one is setting up to be a different kind of murky, but still very murky. It's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So,
Well, the Canada election, I think, is less discreet. Like, things are less secret in a way. I mean, they're secret, but they're less secret. And
yeah.
so, yeah, the American one was like, oh my God, there's so much happening behind the scenes that, like, we don't even know what the fuck is going on. And it's so, um, it's almost like you're either one of the cool kids or you're not. And if you're one of the cool kids, you know all the answers. And if you're not, you're not. And so it was so surreal because at least in America, it was like, we had, at least in the larger world, or the larger population, you could wake up one day in America before the 2024 election and think, what did the Republicans say today? Or how did the Democrats respond? Or how the Republicans, like, you could kind of like be like, oh,
Mhm.
this is just typical.
Yeah.
But then after the election, it was like you couldn't tell who was Democrat, who was Republican, who was it literally upset the whole system.
Wow.
And you had Democrats like John Fetterman almost changing sides almost, like, but still holding the Democrat name. And then you have people on the right, like Lisa Murkowski and and they're just like, you're like, who's doing what? Like it's almost like things are just been so upset and the apple cart has spilled apples all over the street. And then got ran over by a tow truck
Yep.
and then eaten by birds and then pooped on.
Yep.
So like that's kind of what the American one. And I have a feeling that Canada's is going to be very similar too. Like people are going to realize, oh, party line actually means nothing.
The only slight difference is versus it being like held underwater and hard to see because there's so much detritus and stuff floating around. This is happening behind a closed door within a closed door.
Right.
If that makes sense. It's like they're going to be like, is the door soundproof? Is the second door soundproof? Okay, now we can talk. And I'm like, what is going on? So,
and then plot twist, the doors are not actually soundproof.
yeah.
And so it's like that's kind of what I'm getting from this. So
yeah. So that's what I can see coming up. It's going to be an interesting year, regardless. And like I'll look at these charts a little closer to the time, just because I don't like doing politics. I'd rather work with people, but this one is kind of important. So a little attention needs to be paid to. So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on what people can expect from Canada. We definitely don't. We definitely don't want to go the way of that. The feeling that I get is that Polyev has been placed in position to, to be kind of like a wrecking ball, similar to Trump, if that makes sense.
yeah, they have very similar charts. So yeah, with that being said, like kind of in general, the environment politically there is just very murky. It's so weird. Like
Yeah.
it's giving remnants of America.
It is giving remnants of America. But it'll be different because culturally speaking, while we are your neighbors, we do things differently. So,
Very.
so we will have to see. like I said before, I will revisit these charts a little bit closer to the time to see if things become a little clearer, although I doubt they'll become much clearer, just given the nature of the day of the election on the 20th of October. But yeah, that's just like a little snapshot of what's going on in Canada. We're gearing up for a very interesting time in the world, although America's going through it at a speed run and is being that girl.
Yeah. A very interesting time, but yet a very spiritual time, which is what we're going to be talking about on the Patron Only podcast. So make sure you tune in to part 2 on that.
Big thanks to Damien Bartlett for joining us on In the Stars with Eli Gomez this week. Make sure you join my Patreon so that way you can see and listen to part 2. We do not hold back on our American political predictions and thoughts, so we spill all the tea out there. Also, I'm going to address something that was a little tough decision that needed to be made. So if you notice, last week's episode with my guest Meredith Lipsey is no longer on any of the public podcast platforms. And the reason why is because we felt like that due to certain events and situations that were going on, it was best for us to put that episode behind a paywall. So make sure that you join my Patreon so that way you can not only get access to Patreon exclusive content, but right now there's going to be 3 Patreon-only podcasts that have been up since January, so that includes the part 2 for this episode and Meredith Lipsey's interview of what it is like being read for and just talking about business and astrology in general. So make sure you go check that out. I will see you all tomorrow.